Hi and welcome back to my channel. Now, this is a question I get asked quite a lot by other people who are just starting out in photography, is that what would you concentrate on in 2026 in order to actually make money in photography? Well, there's a few that might surprise you and there's a few that you might be a bit disappointed with. So if I was new to photography in 2026, there's a few areas that I would really concentrate on, and there's a few subjects and areas I would really ignore. That's if I actually wanted to make money, and let's be honest, who doesn't want to make money? Photography is well and truly still alive, and there's a few areas that are just they're either too saturated or they're kind of dying out and gradually being replaced with kind of AI processes and things like that. But there's still definitely a huge market for photography going into 2026 and well beyond. So let's take a look. So what I would concentrate on in 2026 if I was starting out in photography. The first one would be real estate. If you're starting out in real estate photography, you've got really low overheads. You can get away with relatively inexpensive gear, camera bodies and lenses. You can offer really easy upsells such as drone photography, floor plans, video, reels, site plans and all this type of thing. Also virtual tours and AI virtual staging, and also content creation for their social media channels such as reels and short form video. Another area I would really concentrate on is weddings. Breaking into that wedding photography and videography market is massive. Again, low overheads. You can get away with relatively inexpensive gear. All you need is a good camera body and probably a couple of really good lenses, a wide angle lens for those kind of group shots, and probably a 70-200 f2.8 for those kind of close up, more immersive shots. Probably looking at f2.8 lenses across the board. Those lenses are obviously more expensive, but you can pick up older, used or refurbished gear from camera stores. There's a huge supply of refurbished and reconditioned lenses, especially f2.8 lenses. Going into weddings, you've got low overheads. You can get into it pretty easily in terms of gear. Most of your time is going to be spent kind of networking and building up contacts, and maybe you want to offer like a free shoot to begin with and then build it up that way once you've got yourself known and you're building up a portfolio. There's also a huge potential for upsells such as wedding albums, photo frames and prints. So bear that in mind when approaching wedding photography. It's a great way to get yourself known in your local area, and you can probably get extra work doing lifestyle photography, family photos, portraits, and even pet photography. Another great area to explore would be events, conferences, and exhibitions. Companies are always going to want professional photographers to photograph their stalls, their stands, and also producing social media content, reels and short form videos, and also photos for their social media channels. Again, really low overheads when it comes to event photography. You're probably going to want that wide angle lens similar to weddings and real estate. You also are going to want that 70-200, and you might want that kind of nifty 50 or 85mm lens with that extremely wide aperture, like a 1.4, 1.8 aperture. Again, these lenses, you can get them refurbished, reconditioned from any camera store now. There's an abundance of lenses available. Just get down there and see what's available. You don't have to buy brand new gear if you're just starting out in photography. Older gear is still perfectly fine and usable for events, conferences, exhibitions, and that type of photography. Most importantly, it's about having a really good set of lenses, and you're able to create content that's going to help differentiate you between your competitors. So it's about having a good technique, it's about having good ideas and creating something that's a little bit different that's going to help make you stand out. You also have to bear in mind that everyone's got a smartphone, everyone's got a camera in their pocket, anyone can just get out their smartphone and start taking pictures. So it's really down to you and your creative process to help make your work stand out and offer something that the general person just simply can't do with their smartphone. Another growing area when it comes to professional photography and also video is content creation. Every single company, from really small boutique companies on the high street to huge corporate companies, require content creation on a regular basis. A constant stream of media going through their social media channels. When it comes to professional photography, people want shots of their products, they want lifestyle shots, they want behind the scenes, they want everything covered. It's down to you as a photographer and your creative process to help make you stand out against your competitors. So it's about coming up with ideas and being able to execute those ideas with the gear that you have. Again, extremely low overheads when you're starting out in content creation. You're better off with more modern, sophisticated cameras compared to old DSLRs, but you don't have to get the absolute top of the range camera. You can start off with a mid or low range camera that's got a lot of functionality, a lot of good features, but it's more important that you invest money in good quality lenses. And again, you don't have to get absolutely top of the range lenses. You can get very good quality 20, 25, 35 millimeter lenses, prime lenses that have very, very wide apertures. That's going to enable you to create absolutely stunning photography. Start small with gear that's kind of low end, and then once you start building up contacts, start to invest more in lenses and better camera bodies. But it's really down to the creative process that's going to help make you stand out. Every company requires a constant production of original, high quality content to help engage potential customers. Editorial photography is not going to go anywhere, and AI cannot replace editorial in any way whatsoever. So if you live in a city that has like a parliament building, like a capital city, for example, that has a lot of newsworthy events going on, editorial is something that I would consider doing, but not as a full-time career. It's better off positioned as a second income or a side hustle. So if you live in a town or a city or an area and you find yourself constantly covering newsworthy events or topics of public interest, then it's worth submitting that content to micro stock sites such as Shutterstock or Alamy in order to create a second income or a side hustle. Editorial or documentary style content is still very much in demand, as AI algorithms can't replicate real-world breaking news, current affairs, and sports events taking place daily. So that gives you a brief idea of some of the areas that I would really concentrate on if I was just starting out in photography in 2026. Now, these are the areas of photography that I would probably avoid in 2026 if I was just starting out. Now, the first one would be sports photography. When people say gear doesn't matter, well, that doesn't really apply to sports, because you're not going to get very far doing sports photography if you don't have one of the huge telephoto lenses. I'm talking about the 400 f2.8s, the 5-600 f4 lenses. These things are absolutely massive. Even the ones that are 20 to 30 years old are still worth a decent amount of money. You're going to be spending $2,000, $3,000, maybe even $4,000 on a lens that is like been around for ages and ages and ages. It's going to be scuffed and it's going to be marked, and it's gradually going to lose its quality as well. It's worth bearing in mind. So with the same money, you can invest in an 85mm, 50mm, a 16 to 35, a 70 to 200. And those lenses are actual money makers. They're going to make you money day to day doing real estate, weddings, content creation, events, conferences, exhibitions, that type of thing. So that's the way you have to think when you're starting out. Are you going to put all your money into one lens, shooting a subject that's highly saturated, that's also extremely difficult to get into? That's if, of course, if you want to make money on a regular basis, that's enough to live on. It's also a heavily saturated market, and it can be difficult to get accreditation for the major sports events. There's a lot of people trying to do sports photography and very few actually making any money. It's only the photographers working for the main agencies such as Getty, Reuters, Associated Press and PA Media, to name a few, that are actually being paid. The rest are basically submitted content for small press agencies or for editorial stock libraries such as Shutterstock or Alamy. Sports photography simply doesn't generate enough money to support all the photographers trying to establish themselves. It's also only the really big sporting events that are likely to generate any kind of potential return on investment. It's things like a cup final or a playoff or the Super Bowl or any sort of major sports events like the Olympic Games or World Cup. These events have a global audience, and if something memorable happens, like a last-minute goal, breaking a world record, or an underdog wins a tournament, then it'll be headline news around the world. That's where freelancers working for smaller agencies are likely to make decent money. You still need to be extremely lucky. You need to be in the right place at the right time in order to capture a photo that's going to be globally recognized and in demand. So sports photography is not something that's going to make you a lot of money initially, and it's certainly not going to give you a regular income. It's better off being treated as more of a hobby or something that you'll do kind of occasional basis if you're just able to cover some of the major sports events. Now, another area I would probably avoid in 2026 is drone photography. If you're just starting out as a drone photographer on a full-time basis, forget it. Owning a drone now is like owning a car. Anyone can own a drone, and and fly it anywhere. Since DJI released a mini series of drones, pretty much anyone can now own and fly a drone in pretty much any area, apart from if you're really, really close to an airport. So drone photography in 2026 is just a highly saturated market, and it's very, very difficult to make regular money from it. Unless, of course, it's offered as part of a wider package. For example, real estate. If you're a drone flyer, you can get into the real estate market. You've got that drone experience to be able to capture aerial photography of buildings and land. But I feel like it has to be part of a wider package now in order for you to make regular money from it. But there's lots of other areas for drone technology. If you're using a drone to conduct surveys for site progress reports, 3D mapping, data capture, inspection, or photogrammetry, LiDAR, then it's possible that you may make more commercial use from your drone, probably a lot more than just a tool to capture images. Another area of photography I would absolutely avoid going into 2026, and that is stock photography. If you're looking to do stock photography on a full-time basis, you're probably going to make yourself bankrupt. That's the sad reality of this once reliable source of passive income. In recent years, the royalties from the major stock media sites such as iStock and Shutterstock have almost collapsed. Shutterstock is now doing okay due to AI-related data licensing payments, but in general, payouts are now far lower than compared to 10-15 years ago. iStock Getty now pays as little as 1 cent for an image download. That is literally as low as it can possibly get. Shutterstock pays out as little as 10 cents for most image downloads. The royalty rate largely depends on the client subscription, but in general, the level of royalty payments has caused a lot of content contributors to close their accounts and focus on other ways to make money. Another area that I would probably avoid if you're just starting out in photography in 2026, and this is for the people who have kind of just left university or college, and that is studio-based photography. And that's purely because of the incredibly large overheads. The amount of gear that you need, the lights, of course, cameras, and very, very good quality lenses. And you also need to rent out studio space. Most studios generally cater for very, very large photo shoots for branding and commercial photography. And therefore they expect a certain level of quality and experience. Very few agencies will employ anyone who's straight out of university or has just bought their first camera. It's possible to be hired as a studio assistant or a runner at a larger studio that might be shooting big advertising campaigns, or even as a photo retoucher or lighting coordinator. Being the main photographer might take a few years. In that time, you're more likely to make way more money doing weddings, real estate, or content creation for small businesses. So there you have it. These are the things I would concentrate on in 2026, and these are the things I would probably avoid. And of course, it doesn't mean that you can't do these things at all, just that these things are more likely to make you money short to mid-term. You need to start making a return on the investment that you've made in your camera gear, which is not cheap. So it's really important to follow your brain and not your heart when it comes to the type of photography that you're going to be doing going into 2026 and beyond. Because unfortunately, you might have to go into areas that you previously weren't really that keen on in order to make money and survive. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope this video has been of some benefit in some way. Please give it a like, give it a share, and subscribe for more content.